Hey, what's up, metal and heavy music fans? It's Flight of Icarus again with MetalTrenches.com, and it's time for Trench Talk. Got a great interview today with Joe Cocchi, the guitar player of Within the Ruins, and I was super stoked to talk with him since I've been a long-time fan. But before I do that, just a reminder that this podcast is available on iTunes, Spotify, CastBox, YouTube, you name it, but whatever platform you choose to go on. Also subscribe to the YouTube channel because I've got plenty more content there. Video reviews, tier lists, Bandcamp roundups, you name it, we've got it. So plenty of reasons to subscribe if you have not already. That out of the way, let's get into the interview. I mean, I gotta say too, I'm a little bit like, I think this is awesome because I've been listening to you guys since Elite came out. Like I always tell the story, I was like at the mall and I just saw it on the shelf and thought the album art looked cool. And this was back when they still had the little stands where you could like listen to the new release albums. And I remember just like pushing play on it and being like, dude, what the fuck is this? Like, this is fucking
Sick,
rad.
yeah. Nice.
So yeah, it's I've been a fan for a long time, loved all the albums, and I'm curious to kind of just start with like what was your mindset going into this new one? Because I know it's been a little while and you've got a new vocalist and everything. So what's up with that?
Okay, yeah. So Steve's definitely new. This is his first full length with us, and yeah, we let me see, where do I start? We had to finish a tour that we were on when Tim had to leave the tour, and we actually called Steve out of the blue. He was in Paulo's old band, and he joined and finished out the tour with us. I think like the end of 2017. But yeah, then so that like kind of fucked us all up a little bit. Like it was just a very weird time, and it took like most of the beginning of like 2018 just to kind of like relax and figure out what we were doing. So we knew we wanted to keep going, but we were like, another singer, like what do we, it was weird. But I started writing, in like 2018, and we put out a few singles with Steve. Those were actually the start of writing Blackheart. Those two singles we did a few years ago.
Yeah.
So like they're like, we need singles, the label, we need singles now. We got to put stuff out with Steve. I'm like, oh man, I got 2 songs for the new album, and it's just like, so those came out, and I started over again. And I don't know, I've said this before, like we definitely scrapped like 3, 4, 5 songs throughout the process. I don't know if we had a goal per se at the beginning of it. It was like all new territory. It's 10 years with Tim. So,
Yeah.
but we knew Steve very well, and Paulo was in the same band with Steve, Silence Messenger. So we knew the guys. I knew Steve for like 10 years. So we had that, at least. We were friends and had a lot of shit in common. So we didn't have to get to know each other on that level. But as far as like where he was coming from lyrically, I didn't know what he was what he was going to do, really, and I don't think he did either until I started getting like 2 or 3 songs together, and we started going back and forth. Because they live in Texas, so I send them shit as I write it. But yeah, it just took some time, and then we were like, holy shit, we're good to go. We know what we're doing, because we started feeding off of each other, and Steve had a lot of stuff to say because hasn't been active per se musically for a while. So it was refreshing to have Steve and kind of challenge ourselves. Just took some time getting used to recording together. We did the album ourselves at my studio, and we didn't want to rush it, so that's why it took forever kind of to put this out. But we luckily we could do it on our own time, and we just did it as we like to feel as comfortable as possible, make everything, don't force shit. Yeah, it was a long process, but it came out pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it sounds great too. And I always say, like, I appreciate quality over quantity. Like, I know some bands are really locked into that like 2-year album cycle, and to me, like, a lot of those bands end up with a lot of hit and miss albums as a result, because maybe they're not ready yet to to really put out what they want to. And I feel like with
Hmm.
Black Heart, like this album, I've heard it back to front repeatedly. I had trouble putting it down and moving on to other stuff, but it sounds
It's a good
amazing.
thing.
And the other thing I said too, like, even though, there was a question mark of, okay, how's this going to go with Steve instead of Tim? At the back of my mind, I was always kind of like, this has always been like a guitar focused band first and foremost. So it's like, I almost feel like you could put anyone in there and it would still be within the Ruins. Cause like to me, that's what sort of defines the sound. But that said, I think Steve did an excellent job and he sounds absolutely ferocious on this thing. And so I was not disappointed at all.
Good. Yeah, I don't think we could have thrown anyone in, but I do know what you mean. Like, we've always been very guitar oriented. Like, that is how it was when we started. It was like our drummer and I were like, we got riffs and music and shred, and let's just find a vocalist so we have vocals. That's literally like what we did when we started. But I know what you're saying, kind of. But Steve had shoes to fill,
Oh
so
yeah.
um, and he killed it. And honestly, like I'm not like that anymore. Like, I really wanted to create stuff that gives that I wanted to create stuff that gave Steve a platform and enough to work off of, so that he could, we want him to be part of the band. We don't want to just be guitar, just technical, whatever you want to call it. So that was a thing that we did have in mind, or that what I did when I was writing. We had him to showcase Steve because he's new and he kicks
Yeah.
ass. So
No, he does, definitely. Like, I like his range. He does some stuff differently from how
yep.
Tim does it, and like that's refreshing too in a way. Like, it's always kind of nice to hear bands like going in different directions and trying new things, and this was like the ultimate kind of like test of sort of having to do that in a way, and I
Yeah,
I
it
feel
was.
like it paid
Yep.
off. And honestly, I will say for sure that Deliverance is one of the best songs you guys have ever written. Like, definitely in the top 10. That single came out and I was like, okay, any like concern I had about whether or not this is going to be good, out the window, cuz that song fucking kills it.
Thank you. Thanks. Yeah, that's why we threw it out first. So I'm glad that worked.
Yeah, no, it was the perfect single. Like, I'd put it right up there with the likes of like Eternal Shore and Gods Amongst Men and
Hmm.
uh just all those all those
Yeah.
classics.
Oh yeah. Thanks.
So, was there any potential like kind of concept or like what went into like the writing of the album this time around? Like, were there specific ideas that people wanted to make sure were included, or is it just sort of like more focused on the music than the lyrics, so to speak?
No, it was focused on both, but it was really awesome how it organically just happened. And again, because we took enough time to let it happen, because we never really go into an album with a plan per se, but and that's what I like about it. But so as I started, like, for example, the first time Steve and Paulo flew up here, I think we did like Domination, the first song on the album. I think we did Devil in Me, which is going to be another single. One other song. We did those songs, and it was the first time hearing Steve's lyrics. He was sending me stuff as he wrote, and I'm like, oh man, he's pissed. Like, he had shit to say.
Yeah.
And then after it was that first session that we did together for a few weeks is where we like kind of hit it off, and I was um like really bonded with Steve and where he was coming from, and I'm like, and also like myself and our drummer having and even Paulo having this change in the band. We had some like resentment going on. We had some. It was definitely like we were a little not pissed off, but we felt like we were having to like we had more energy and more emotion to put into the music than normally. I'll say, like, like you do so many albums, sometimes you just do them, but it's nice to have to feel something to like inspire the music. It doesn't always happen. So Steve really brought that into the band, and I started writing towards Steve. I'm like, all right, he's pissed. Hearing his vocals, not just pissed, but he had a lot of, emotional and really personal stuff to touch on. And just the way his vocals and his patterns started fitting what I was writing, I like then started writing stuff more like the song Blackheart and Deliverance, and there's a song called Reckless toward the end of the album that was very different for us. But Steve like kind of brought that all in. So, and I'm like, oh my God, this is sick. I'm like writing the album as we're doing the songs, as I'm hearing stuff from Steve, versus we used to just go, okay, I wrote 10 songs. Okay, let's all go in for a month and just do it. This was kind of written after each. I mean, I think there was 4 or 5 sessions that they flew here for. So, and each time after they left, I'd go and write the next like 3 or 4 songs. And that was a pretty cool way to do it. So I don't know if I answered your question.
No,
I
no,
forgot what
no.
the
That was
question
that
was.
was great. I'm curious too, because I'm not as up on kind of where you all are located. You said some people had to like fly in. So are you all like in different parts of the US right now, or what's that look like?
Our drummer, Kevin, and myself are in Western Mass. That's where the band started. It's been us two since we started in like high school. And then Steve and Paulo live in San Antonio. So, and they used to be in a band called Silence the Messenger. They toured kind of. We ran into them all the time on tour. So yeah, those guys would fly from Texas every time we'd do a session.
Okay, cool. So I feel like I've talked to two kinds of guitar players like on these episodes. There's always like, one camp that's sort of especially when they're writing an album, they like don't really listen to anything else and they really just focus on their own writing. And then I know other guitar players who like to soak in kind of like everything that's going on and are constantly listening to things, and that influences the direction.
I'm more in I don't listen to anything, but sometimes you get stuck. Like I don't always just sit down and write a song. I get, and when it gets frustrating or you need motivation, then sometimes I'll just go back to my roots, if you will. I'll just jam. Like I'm a big Arch Enemy fan,
Hell
big
yeah.
Black Dahlia Murder fan, In Flames at the Gates, all that old shit. So sometimes I'll throw on stuff like that, and just to be, it's more of like a motivational or inspirational thing. But yeah, I don't like listen. I'm terrible. I don't listen to anything. I don't know anything new that's out. I don't really give a shit either. Like I'm not picky, but it just takes. There's so much stuff out
Yeah,
there.
there is.
It's awesome when you find something that gets your attention, but I don't know. I don't really keep up on everything that's going on because I focus. Like that's the reason we write music, because we get to write what we want to hear, and it all comes from somewhere. It's all in a funnel. It's all in your head, and it's cool because it comes out when you write, and you can actually we write shit that we like want to listen to in a way. I don't know.
Yeah, no.
It sounds kind of stupid actually, but yeah, I don't really listen to a lot of shit.
Well,
So
if I were to, and I usually ask people too on here, like, what's your favorite sort of like underground metal band that you feel like deserves more attention? But like, I've had people like yourself too that say like, dude, I have no idea what's going on right now. So it's like, whatever. But I will like, if I want to throw out one recommendation to you, that I just have a feeling you'd be interested in, it's probably Car Bomb. Definitely give Car Bomb a listen. Their latest albums, they do some crazy stuff with the guitar work that I think
okay,
you would
cool.
appreciate. But
I feel I've definitely heard that name, but yeah, I'll check it out.
yeah, they do
Big
some
ass
weird,
name.
like it's like a weird fusion of almost like Meshuggah with like shoegaze at times, and it's bizarre. Like it's totally
Okay,
crazy.
I like Bizarre. Yeah.
Yeah, Bizarre's good. I'm a big fan of that
Uh,
too.
yep.
You did just mention a lot of some of my favorite bands from back in the day too that were definitely instrumental in me kind of getting more and more into just heavier stuff, especially melodic death metal. And like I was huge into all those like Gothenburg bands in particular that you just named. So I'm curious, like, what were your favorite albums kind of like coming up as you said in your roots in terms of Arch Enemy, In Flames, all that?
So I guess I'm a Metallica guy. Everybody names one of them four or whatever. I was Metallica and Pantera were like when I was like 8 years old, 7, 8, 9 years old is
Yeah.
what got me. Even well, Black Sabbath before that too, even. But started off with that type of stuff, and then I heard Arch Enemy on, I think it was like Music Choice. I feel like that's still the thing on the TV.
Yeah,
Like, you know,
man.
you could go to the metal channel, and like I think it was like in 1999 or something, maybe even before that. It was their first singer. And I heard it, and I'm like, what the hell is this? And I was just like so stoked. Like Arch Enemy is a huge, like I literally listened to Arch Enemy for like 2 years straight, nothing else. And their lead playing is like the brothers. I mean, Michael's still in the band, but I like take so much from their, especially all their stuff so melodic. It's catchy, their
Yeah.
lead stuff. So yeah, then when I found Arch Enemy, of course, our drummer found In Flames, and then he found Soilwork, and then
Hell
at
yeah.
the same time we started getting into obviously Killswitch Unearth, all this stuff that was happening in Massachusetts that was going on at that time, and as I lay dying, and just when metalcore started, I started kind of really, I think we started our career when we started to get good, because we
Get
sucked
good.
for a while. We started at that time was when metalcore was happening, so I listened to just tons of metalcore too after that.
Yep.
And then
Same here.
you know, that's pretty much where I'd say that's where I come from.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for me that was sort of the progression, and I feel like a lot of the bands I have on here, it's similar. Like for me, it was kind of new metal with like Korn and Slipknot, and
Oh
then from
yeah, I
there,
can't forget to
yeah,
mention that type of shit too. Obviously that
yeah,
was in there, but yeah.
yeah. I went from
Sorry,
that
go ahead.
to no, it's all good. To metalcore, and then into melodic death metal. Dark Tranquillity is still like one of my all-time favorite bands, and then from there into finally like black metal and all the more extreme dissonant stuff.
Yep, yep.
I'm
Yeah,
curious.
yeah. I mean, we like all the same stuff. Probably it sounds like, and I notice when I talk to people that enjoy the same shit I do, we all kind of have that same backstory. We all come from the same place, kind of. It's weird.
And I've said with like a number of bands on here, I feel like the metalcore and new metal in particular used to be kind of like dirty words in the scene, and you like didn't even talk about it. But now it's like I feel like that generation is kind of like aged out a little bit, and like all the big bands are sort of from that time where it's like, dude, that those were our roots. Like we're not going to deny that. So I don't feel like it's as like passe to talk about that anymore.
I agree. I think it was always respected, but I think even more now. I mean, like everybody that was listening to that shit is now, I feel like 30 or late 30s or 40, or like like us, for example. Like those were, I remember when metalcore happened, yeah, and then it wasn't so cool, and Djent happened, and everyone's like, "Oh, it's a metalcore band," and it was like kind of faded a little bit, but I feel like it came back, or the respect for it did. Like a lot of people my age, or a lot of friends I have, are like, I just go back and listen to that, like, you know, Still Remains, God Forbid,
Yep.
all those bands, and it's like it was good times. That was a pretty cool like genre, the subgenre, whatever you want to call it, that kind of was created in that decade.
Yeah, for sure. Like those are still some of my all-time favorites to this day too when I throw on older stuff. It's crazy how old some of those albums are too. I'm like, dude, this is making me feel like the way my dad used to talk about like Jimi Hendrix, like that's how I feel
Right.
now talking about like As I Lay Dying and
Yeah.
Kill
But
Switch
they're
and
still
stuff.
a lot of all those bands are still kicking ass and still
Yeah, for
active.
dude, that
And it
new
just
Kill
goes to
Switch
show,
album
like,
that new Killswitch album like came out of nowhere and totally blew me away too, because I had kind of fallen off with them and hadn't really really loved an album from them in a while, and then they put out this new one. What was that, last year? And I was just like, holy
yeah,
crap, these guys still got it.
Disarm. Yeah. I agree. That was pretty kick ass. And then they did all the B-side stuff that they put out too, and
Yeah.
I think they put out 4 songs. Yeah, I mean, agreed. I kind of fell off a little bit too with them, and maybe even some other bands, but it was nice to hear Jesse back too, and all. I got
Yeah.
back into him like a lot. So
Yeah, I like Howard, but I always kind of just liked the Jesse era more. I don't
hmm
know exactly why, but yeah, it was cool to see him come back. It's been cool to see a
yeah.
lot of these bands in general just like make a comeback. Like so many of them coming back around. I've been keeping my fingers crossed forever for Poison the Well, but I even had the
Oh,
drummer Chris Hornbrook was
yep.
on one of my early episodes, and he basically was like, it's not happening, man. And I'm like, oh man, that sucks. But Chris is really cool. It was cool to talk to him. Like that was
Yep.
almost like a starstruck moment too, because I had been listening to them since Opposite of December, and that was like one of my first metalcore albums, I think.
Yeah. Yep. Poison the Well is sick.
Yeah, man.
Haven't listened to him in a minute, but I probably will
Yeah,
tomorrow.
you
Since you just said that.
you come before you is potentially like my favorite album of all time. I think I don't have qualms saying that.
There you go. Yeah.
You mentioned the D word, Djent, and it seems like almost inescapable to talk about this on some level. So I'm curious,
Sure.
like, how did you end up going in that direction with your guitar work to begin with? Like, what inspired and influenced that going way back?
Did I do that? I don't know. I don't know.
No.
I remember when like that type of shit was happening and that word was popular. I'm like, what the hell is this now? But I think like we maybe from touring from because we toured a shitload for since maybe 2006. I think we started touring, but things changed. It's 2020, so
Yeah, man.
as this other style came into metal, I think at one point I remember for like a couple of years we were literally on tour with just every local band was quote unquote Djent. No more metalcore really. Like every local band was doing the same shit. And I was like, what is happening? Are we like is our shit done? This is no one, no one sounded like they did 5 years ago when we were touring. What happened?
Yeah.
But I like that. I like I like groovy stuff. I like the bouncy stuff. I don't think like we never really did that originally when we started. I like our first few albums probably don't have much of that, I don't think, but there's a combination of um we always experimented a little bit and we're like next album, where do we go? What can we introduce? Like what do we feeling here? Can't do the same album over and over. And at one point, our idea was to try to make our music a little bit more digestible because I'll be honest, excuse me, we like definitely never we didn't get big and we didn't get big immediately like some bands. So we're like, maybe something's wrong. Maybe it's just because we'd play shows when Creature and Invade came out, and people would just stare at us like, I don't. It's a lot to listen to live.
Yeah.
So if you don't know the music first, you're like, what the hell is this? So at one point, like maybe Elite Phenomena, we tried to, all right, let's make it more digestible, make it so people can actually, bob their head, and because we were a live band, we toured like 8 months out of the year. So we tried to write songs that went over better live, and maybe that's where that came in. I always like the lower tuning thing just always happened. I think every album since the beginning I would tune down for each next album just because to change it up I'd get bored. Like, oh, I'll tune my guitar to drop C, drop B, drop whatever. So maybe I think that kind of is more in the Djent realm too, the super low wow wow tuning. But I don't know. I don't think it was intentional. I think it just happened. Maybe just from hearing every band we were touring with for a while. Just kind of maybe I soaked that in. Maybe it just not sure.
Yeah. Well, it happened organically. Well, and in a way that kind of makes sense too, because something I've always said of your guitar work in particular is that it just seems so like from your particular like personality, soul, whatever you want to call it. Like it just, there's nobody else that really sounds like you, which is which is what I really appreciate about your band too, because Djent has become like such a bloated scene, and there's so many bands that sound exactly the same, like all of them kind of usually
Mm-hmm.
aping sort of the Architect sound more or less.
Mm-hmm.
But like with you guys, you've taken it in a completely different direction where it's like faster and more technical, like more bouncy, if you can call it that. Like it's different, and I haven't really heard uh, really any other bands incorporated in the same way that you do. And so I think that makes you stand out, but it also frustrates me because like you said, like you didn't like blow up like some of these other bands did. And I'm sitting here like they should be the biggest band of like these bands because I find them to be the most interesting, but I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, it takes time to. I mean, like look at a band like Arch Enemy. I don't think they were a big band per se, or at least in the U.S. for like a long time. But or even Lamb of God was doing stuff for so long until they got
Yeah, that's
huge,
true.
huge. But that doesn't. I mean, that's not like our thing. I don't give a shit what happens. We just like to do. We like to just do music. But yeah. And as far as the recognizable sound, I guess that you're talking about, I don't know. I just uh so like you say, it's bloated and kind of oversaturated. There are a lot of bands that whenever something new and cool happens, everybody does it for sure.
Yeah.
And when metalcore was happening, that's
Yeah.
exactly what was happening with us. And I'm like, we're not going to go anywhere. We're not going to get any tours unless we do something weird or
Yeah.
some, I'm like, we have to stand out. I want to stand out. And I'm not sure, somewhere along the way, like the little stoppy, starty, the leady things, and like just the weird shit we do. Between the Buried and me was doing that shit. Just kind of got, just started somewhere along the line. I'm like, that works. That's cool. That works for us. We'll do a bunch of that. And I'm like, no one really does that. So um, it's kind of, unfortunately, you have to concentrate on doing something to set yourself apart if you want
Yeah.
to go
No, I
anywhere with
mean,
anything. So
that's true of anything too. Like I know
yeah,
some musicians like really bemoan that fact, but it's just sort of like it's the reality. If you want to make it in any sort of realm, you got to
yeah,
stand out
anywhere.
in
Yeah,
some
yep.
way, whether it be visually or sonically or whatever. Like you got to have that sort of hook, so to speak.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah. But I think you guys do. So that's why I'm just like trying to shout from the rooftops constantly like y'all you need to get down with Within the Ruins because this is like and again like I think it's so hard to balance technicality with digestibility as you put it
Yeah,
because some bands like and I like some of those bands. Like there are bands out there like Ulcerate that are like super technical, but they're not very digestible. Like not a lot of people are going to get into that because it's just like noise to them. And then other
yeah.
bands are like so focused on the catchiness that they just start to sound like a really generic sort of pop radio band. And you've like really straddled the line, I think, and it's perfect.
Thanks. Yeah, that's, you literally nailed it. That's how I think. So that's always, as a writer and guitar player, that's always been, to try to find this balance where it's still not acceptable, digestible, but still you can show that you are doing something cool
Yeah,
and unique or whatever. So yeah,
for sure.
that's cool. I'm glad I didn't even know that was happening. It just happened. Now I look back on it and I'm like, that's one of the things I hear most is like, oh, whenever you guys come on, I know it's you. And I'm like, oh, that's fucking pretty cool
Yeah,
because that's hard to do.
it is.
It's almost not doable. It just kind of it just happened. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's a happy accident, I will say.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, a lot of work too, hard work,
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
but yeah.
I am curious from your discography, do you have like a particular favorite album or a favorite song?
From all
Yeah,
of our shit.
from everything.
Uh, um, I don't know. I think it's hard to ask me that because I wrote like, I think of, if it makes it onto an album, and sees the light of day, to me it's like my baby. But but they're all like that. Like, I don't know. I guess, to be honest, I'm most like, and that's not just because this album's coming out or whatever, not because it's new, but I'm honestly most proud of this album as a whole. Don't know if I could pick a favorite song of any album, dude. It's like impossible. I like doing the instrumentals for sure, and that's not to, Steve and Tim are there too, but I guess I like where the Ataxia stuff has gone.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm gonna name the instrumental songs, but those are always so fun, and people. I did the Ataxia 2 just because I love Metallica, and they did Unforgiven 2, and I was like,
okay.
oh, that'd be cool. I'll just do Ataxia 2. That'd be funny. And did that, and then after that, everyone's like, where's the next Ataxia? Where's the next,
Now you have
so
to do it.
Okay, well, shit. Now
You're
I gotta
married to it.
Yeah.
That's
I don't know.
funny. Is there a favorite song to play live, maybe?
I do. We've been ending our set with Calling Card for a long time.
Ooh, good one.
Probably since Phenomena came out, which is pretty sad that we played that song at the end of our set for that long. But there's something about it where it's like, you get smashed with a whole set or other bands set. You're hearing so much shit, and you get to the end of the set, it's like, got one more, and a lot of people know Calling Card more than other songs, and it's just like, whenever we play that song, it just is like no one's tired all of a sudden. It just comes, the whole show, like,
it's the caffeine.
It just works. Yeah, it's like, I think Calling Card might be one of my favorites, and like the ending breakdown and the fade out thing and all that epic shit we got going on is like a nice way to end the set. And that's probably Calling Card is one of my favorites live.
That's a good choice. That whole album to me is potentially, I kind of like, more and more Halfway Human has been like creeping up into sort of my top tier albums, but Phenomena has been for a long time like my personal favorite. I love all the little like comic book references, and it has so many great track openers. Like, I love a good like opening couple seconds to a song, and there's so many on that album.
There is a lot on that album, that's for sure. I think that's when I started to figure out, like, it's rather than just counting off or going right into the song, you have like the anticipation, and it's kind of foreshadows. A lot of times it's just a riff that happens in the song later that I'll start the song with, or like, I'll take something from the middle of the song and make an intro thing out of it. And that's another thing that always worked cool live, because our music is a bit sporadic, and again, like, trying to be a little bit more digestible even live. It's like a breath, and it kind of introduces the song, and then it kicks in, and people are like, okay, all right, I think I see what's going on. And I think I probably overdid it on that one. So
no, I love it. Like, well, because people remember that, and that's also like the moment usually at the show where the longtime fans will like scream along with that again. Crash against her and be broken. Like, I live for that shit. So for me, I couldn't ask for more. I love stuff like that. So
cool.
Yeah. Well, I feel like we are kind of like winding down here. Is there anything else like you really wanted to make sure people knew when they're listening to this about the new album, about anything coming up in the near future, things of that nature?
I don't know. We miss playing shows. That's been very weird. And
common theme.
We're trying to work on, like, everybody, dude. Live music is like, no one realizes this year you're like, oh wow, I need to see, like, we have our practice space here. It's the studio is where we practice as well, and like, it's part of the it's in the same building as the brewery that we have. And sometimes our drummer Kevin works at the brewery as well, So we'll do shit there, and then we'll come over and we'll have like a little practice. But some of the guys from the brewery will come over, or our parents or friends, and they'll come in and be like, "This is awesome, free live show, hell
Yeah.
yeah!" But yeah, I don't know. We can't wait to get back on the road. The album comes out November 27th, and just just enjoy it. We do it for the fans and for people who enjoy music. So
Yeah. And again, once again, I find myself like shouting it from the rooftops. Like, people need to check out this album. So, I was really glad to connect with you to do this interview. I've got a full video review of the album put together. I did a whole album tier list video too, where I talk through all the albums. So I'm just like, any way I
nice.
can.
You
Like,
got you have the whole new album.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
Sick. Yeah, a lot of times when we do interviews closer to the album coming out, most of the interviewers have it. I don't know if the label, I don't even know how it works, but
Yeah, the PR
that's pretty
people
rad.
send it out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Sick.
nice. And it's kind of fun to make other people jealous too, so not gonna lie.
Yeah. Right.
All right, man. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time, and happy to have you or anyone else from the band back on in the future too. I love having return guests, and feel free to save my number too if you ever find yourself in Portland. Look me up when this whole crazy shit blows over, or grab a beer or something.
Yeah, absolutely. I can make time whenever if you want to do something else again. And Steve does a lot of interview stuff as well. So let us know whenever.
Yeah, for sure. All right, man. Thanks a
All
lot.
right, good times.
Yep.
I
Later.
appreciate it. See ya.
And that'll do it for another episode of Trench Talk. Hope you all enjoyed it as much as I did. Once more, just a reminder, if you have not subscribed yet, please do. In the description, you can also find links to all of our social media where you can follow us, metaltrenches.com for even more reviews and content. The email newsletter I send out personally every Friday, and our Patreon and Subscribe Star if you want to take that extra jump to becoming a full-on supporter. Even just $1 a month gets you early access to content and helps me keep this train a-rolling. But that'll do it for now. Flight of Icarus signing off. I will see you in the trenches.